Starting this hour straight away with Nigel Farage. Nigel has joined a new international campaign committed to reforming the World Health Organization, and this is set to launch today. Let's go to Nigel and find out exactly. Nigel, what's your issue with the World Health Organization?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the World Health Organization, which is part of the United Nations, was set up and designed to be an early warning system. You know, something like SARS hit a few years ago, the rest of the world needs to know about it. And if it's there for us to share best practice, how we deal with problems, how we deal with new phenomena like COVID, and if we can all go there and learn from each other, that's terrific. No objections whatsoever. However, in 2 weeks' time, our government is committed to signing a new treaty. It'll be binding under international law, and that treaty would now give this organisation the power to, number one, in an emergency, take 20% of our PPE, 20% of our vaccines, which they would take and give to poorer third world countries. Number two, it would give them the right to declare a pandemic, a global pandemic, and they could tell us we have to lock down. Now, I think not only have we had enough of lockdowns, we can all now see that the approach that Florida took, the approach that Sweden took, where life carried on, albeit with a few restrictions, but life carried on was a better approach. So that shouldn't be removed from us. And anyway, it's for us to decide how we deal with health.
But do the member bodies of this organisation, the World Health Organization, do they not have a vote in all of this?
Well, the problem is we'll be giving authority to the World Health Organization just to do this. They would have the ability to say, right, there is a global pandemic, you must all lock down. Now, look, Brexit Britain, what was Brexit about? It was about taking back control. It was about us being in charge of these big decisions and not to give a bureaucracy, and one that's fairly questionable in terms of the way that it operates financially and much else. And look, in America, 49 of the Republican senators have got together, written to Joe Biden to say, look, let's try and reform the WHO. Let's not try and, sign this treaty. And what's happening in Britain is we're on the verge of signing this and there is no debate. There ought to be a public debate in Parliament where ministers explain publicly why they intend to sign this.
So, you've explained it perfectly there, because I was scratching my head. Why on earth is Nigel Farage bothered about the World Health Organization? But it comes back to that issue, doesn't it, as you said there, about sovereignty, about control. Now, the government have absolutely been adamant that no outside third party would be dictating whether or not we would go into a lockdown or not.
Yes, back to the days of the European Union, where no, the EU haven't really got power over us, and then you find that they have. British governments are very keen, whether they're Labour or Conservative, they love signing international treaties. They love being popular on the world stage, going with the flow. And time and again we found, on these issues of who's really in control, they don't actually tell us the whole truth.
But how easy is it ever to take back control? A lot of people would say the Brexit that you envisioned, the Brexit that you sold to the British population hasn't really happened. We haven't been able to take back control. Could that be the same with the World Health Organization? No. And isn't it better to have some sort of international overarching cooperation when it comes to a pandemic, which it by very nature is global?
I'm all for cooperation.
Yeah.
What I'm not for is surrendering the ability to make decisions, and they are two fundamentally different things. Look, the Brexit we've got, it hasn't worked out the way that I wanted, but all I ever said to people was we would be in control, and we might make a total mess of things, or we might do things very well, but we are in control.
So what way, ideally, would you see a reorganised World Health Organisation? Would we have a contributory vote, a voluntary vote? No vote? How would you see it?
Very simple. We should go to Geneva in 2 weeks' time for this big summit, and we should say to the bureaucrats, right, this is not what we intended. We are not going to give you the power to do all of these things. What we will do is use you as a coordination point where we can share intelligence and share best practice. And this thing needs to be reformed. And if you don't reform, we're going to stop making financial contributions and we will no longer play a part in it. And that's how negotiations work in life. You've got to threaten. You've got to threaten to get what you want. I suspect that if we make this stand, we'll find that other countries join us.
And you're talking about reform there. Is this move into this area part of your role as President of Reform, or is it totally separate?
No,
this isn't a position of reform.
This is completely non-party political in every way. It's just
apart from slight alignment with the Republicans in the States.
Well, yes, but I'm hoping that I'm hoping now that Democrat voices come out and say much the same thing. I mean, the Americans are very, very big on sovereignty, regardless whether they're Democrat or Republican. No, this is non-political. It's a simple fact that your elected parliaments should make these decisions and then be held accountable to you at the next election.
So if people at home are listening to you this morning going, I agree with everything Nigel is saying, what can they do to ensure that in 2 weeks' time a proper debate is had?
Well, what we're doing now is we're collecting names. Action for World Health, the website's all going up today. We're going to collect names of people who support us, want to help us. And when I've got this moving, in a couple of days' time, I will launch a petition on the government's website, and I'm hoping we get hundreds of thousands of people who say we should not do this without a proper parliamentary debate. And the fact that it hasn't even been discussed, I think, is wrong.
Well, who's there at the moment representing us?
We have a variety of people. We have doctors. We have all sorts of people that input, mostly on a part-time basis. And actually, if you talk to the medical profession, a lot of our top cancer specialists and many others have actually found this organisation to be very valuable over the last few years, and all the while it's operating on the basis of cooperation but not giving away powers. It can be a force for good, but it's heading now into territory that it shouldn't be going towards.
So you don't want to see it disbanded. You understand that there is a role for the World Health Organization. I mean, is there a risk, possibly, by starting this debate of undermining it rather than reforming it?
I think it undermined itself. I think the boss, Mr. Tedros, the boss of it, undermined it. He was put into that position with the substantial backing of China. And when the pandemic broke, he insisted to the world it was the wet markets that were the source of COVID-19. So his position actually is highly questionable.
OK, well, fascinating talking to you this morning. Thanks for coming in. Lovely to have you in the flesh so early in the GB News studio. People don't usually expect to see you this time here. Thank you very much.